well, I was on the board for 25, 24 years and was chairman, I guess, for 20, something like that. So that's been one of my first loves. The library. Anyway, as a child, the library was around on this corner where the Indigo Society is. So it was 2 blocks from my house. And they had one room downstairs, and they had books up to the ceiling. Of course, this had been an ongoing effort of any number of these people. Miss Hess, my second grade teacher that I mentioned to you, kept the library, and we're coming across all of these notices that it would be open from 5 to 7 on Wednesday and Saturday. So I mean, it was a very limited thing, and people donated books. And so when I was growing up, one of my fondest things to do was to go to the library because I loved to read. And so we had 2 very lovely ladies that ran the library. And by this time, the WPA had come in. You had gotten some federal funding and then some state funding. So Mrs. Bonds did the bookmobile, and Mrs. Bruns, who later became Mrs. Thatcher, and whose granddaughter Trudy is one of our backbone people at the library, were the librarians. Well, I've often wondered how in the world they put up with me, because I think I just lived there, and they had other things to do, but they were always so kind and just so sweet. And they wouldn't let me take just anything out of the library. They didn't approve of it. Then they just said, well, I just don't think you ought to read that. So I didn't get that, but I discovered the sheep, which I thought must be really risky reading. And it was on a back shelf, and so I remember taking the book. I didn't tell them I took the book and read it, and I didn't understand a whole lot of it, but anyway, I felt very, 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 very daring, and was able to slip it back in its exact spot before they found out about it. But they were so dear. And so then we got the new library in 1950, where they moved around to on Britt Street, and Ms. Bonds and Miss Thatcher were both there then. And so that's only 4 more blocks away. So I've always been, so then I had an opportunity to get on board and was always very interested. I guess our greatest achievement was the fact that we got 3 new libraries in Georgetown County. And we worked with county council saying there's no money and so forth and so on. But it was just a matter of perseverance. And anyway, every time the budget came up, we'd mobilize the board and we'd all go and talk to these people. And finally we won out in 1987, I guess it was. And we were very fortunate to have, at that time, we had a librarian who really was very interested. Kate Hood came, and she said, of course we'd been knowing we needed a new facility all these years. It wasn't even news to us, but she really and truly was determined to see if we couldn't get something. And so we'd gotten some plans, and we got the architect, and we just were really focused on it. And then she left, and we were very fortunate that Jenny Nillis came following her. And Jenny was a go-getter if ever there was one. And well, really and truly, we already had the approval of the buildings but when Jenny came, but she was just wonderful in overseeing all of the arrangements and just staying on top of everything. And we never did make a real good case, but we did come in totally under budget on everything. We had money left over, so we got $3.5 million, I believe, for the 3 libraries. And so we built, the first one to open was the Andrews Library, and then the main library, and then the one on Walker Neck. There's so many buildings and so many things. So, we're working through the Historical Society now to try to document all of these things. The Historical Society has put out the guidebook to the homes and things. Everything before 1860 is in this guidebook, but then we're going to bring it on up to date. Now, particularly, we're working on Front Street with businesses and to see what's been there and who's been in the businesses and what we can find out about them. That's why we're reading the newspapers and going cross-eyed and blind, trying to find some things.
I'm a diabetic, and at that time I was a diabetic for 16 years. And I thought I was doing real good, but as the years go on, it began to kind of weigh me down. So I began to ask questions. What's here in Georgetown County that I can affiliate myself with, such as a support group? So nobody knew anything about a support group. So then I started from the health department, and I started telling them my feelings and how I felt about being a diabetic. And I know that I should know more than I know. Having this disease, I need to know more about it. And that first day I sat in that class, there were doctors there. Can't remember their names. And there were community health people there. And everything they said made me realize how I was really killing myself. I actually wanted to cry just to see the things I did not know. So they said in the meeting, this is now, don't just keep this information, we want you to share it. And by that time it had already flickered in my mind, oh yes, I know what I'm going to do with mine. And so the next day we went, they wanted to know, well, what have you decided to do with your information? And I was just on ball. I said, well, I'm going back to my community and I'm going to start a diabetes support group. At our first meeting, we had 75 community people. 75 people turned out, and they were all interested. We had a doctor there, Dr. Cato's, who talked about the foot care. We had Dr. James Coleman there. He's the director for DHEC. We had quite a bit of people there. Hospital people were there. And everybody had something good to say. And everybody went away from there feeling high, and they were going to, really, we were going to do some things. And that was our first meeting. Now we have gone for 4 years. But the good news is that somehow or another, the medical university heard about what we were doing here in Georgetown County. And they wrote a grant. Right now we get called into different areas. We get called into churches to talk to the youth. We have a board of 15 board members. We have about 44 volunteers. And any church within this county you can call and you can get some help as far as putting out posters, making announcements, whatever has to be done. Health fairs, we have professionals to come in. They come in, they check the blood, they check the sugar, they check the feet, they check the eyes. My job as diabetes coordinator here has taken off to a great start, and it's still going strong. And one community I went in, the little girl says, Mom, the diabetic lady is here. Because that's I hope to see one day that people will realize how to control it, because it can be controlled.
I was the last president of the music club. We had wonderful concerts here. We had a wonderful membership, and we had all of them at our wonderful auditorium, which I'm praying, I am wholeheartedly praying it will be again in my lifetime, because the auditorium, the acoustics and everything were wonderful. And during that time, we had concerts that Nadine O'Connor, a vocalist, performed here. And 3 days or 4 days later, she performed at Carnegie Hall in New York. Now that gives you a little idea of the concerts that we had in. It was absolutely wonderful, really. Then I was a member of our sisterhood. I was president of this sisterhood for many years, and that existed as long as we had a lovely congregation.
I have done everything in the Georgetown County Education Association. I've held every office when I was an active teacher. This was, in the beginning, was a segregated organization, and I believe we were called Georgetown Teachers Organization. Douglas Allen, who taught here at Wynyard, must have been 20 or 30 years ago, he and I integrated the Education Association. We became Georgetown County Education Association. I participate with them on the local level. and I participated with the South Carolina Education Association, and even before that we had the Palmetto Education Association. That was the segregated group. The National Education Association, I've attended several of their national meetings, Minneapolis and all around the country. I have fond memories of those places with pictures. That's one of my favorite organizations. And now I'm a part of the Georgetown Retired Education Association. South Carolina Education Association retired as an organization, and the counties have their local organization. So I'm part of it. I've served almost every position in the Retired Education Association, and I served as district director for District 9, which included Georgetown, Horry, and Marion counties. Just working to get swimming pools in Georgetown. Every year we have kids dying who can't swim, and we think it's a disgrace to live here with all of this water. So we have a fabulous group that's going. We have about 71 members. We're writing grants. We're going to get some money pretty soon. And of course, I work with my church very religiously, the Covenant Baptist Church, where I serve as clerk. I'm superintendent of Sunday school. I'm a member of various organizations.
Church organizations, I belong to the Catholic Women Club, St. Mary's Altar Society, and well, we didn't have too many organizations back then at the time, and of course with all my work and so forth, but no PTA because I didn't have any children and things like that. I was a member of that Moose Auxiliary. I used to help with swimming, teaching children to swim. And we participated in the Christmas party. We had a Christmas party every year for the children, underprivileged children, at the Moose Club. And we brought them all in and gave them presents and sang and ate. And it was just a great time.
I think those were like the best years of my life. I felt so useful. I used to go every summer from New York to some part of South Mississippi or Louisiana or those two states I went. And I felt so useful because the group that I went with one summer, I was the only teacher in that group. So I set up a classroom, and people from all over the community, they hear that we are there.
So what did you teach?
Teach them the Constitution, because black people in Louisiana had to, in order to vote, they had to go to the courthouse and they asked them questions about the Constitution, and they had to answer. If they didn't, they couldn't vote. So I taught the Constitution and taught them. Many people didn't, they were like third, fourth grader. They didn't know how to read and write and all that. And one day I had set up this classroom, and there was this old man. He told me he was 80 years old at that time. And he's hobbling with a stick, and the sun is hot, beaming hot, and he's coming up that road, dusty road, and he came into my classroom. He says, "Darling, I hear that you teach people to read and write so they can vote. I want you to teach me how to read and write because I want to vote one time before I die." And I think it was like a few weeks we could take, and once we feel that they've learned enough to take that test at the courthouse, we would take them to the courthouse. Before I could take that man to the courthouse to take the test, they had already thrown us in jail. One Sunday afternoon, the director of that program, he let us have the afternoon off. So we took the boat it was a ferry boat, from Baton Rouge to go to New Orleans just for some Sunday afternoon. And at that time, on one side of the ferry boat, if you get out of your car, if you stay in your cars, you can be integrated. If you get out of the car, whites on one side of the boat, blacks on the other side. So we had already determined that if one person got in trouble, we were all going to stick together. So we happened to be on the side of the boat. We got out of the cars. We didn't know anything about this rule. The side of the boat was designated for white people, so we were all on that side. So the guy who was what do you do with a boat? Drive it? Whatever, propel it or something. He came out of the cabin and said, you niggers, you have to go on the other side of the boat because this side is for white people. So we had already decided we were all going to stay together, wherever, right? So we didn't go. So Judy, a black girl who was with us from Brooklyn, she had never in her life been any further south than Jersey, I don't think. She didn't know nothing about the South. So she thinks that this is a big joke. So she says to this white captain who's driving the boat, says, how would you like it if since you were born there were signs that says white here, colored there? So I said to her, because we think this is a big joke, whoever know you're going to go to jail? So I said to her, Julie, don't worry, because since he was born, if there were signs that says white here, colored there, he would be confused too, because he's not white, he's pink. See, I was talking about his color. It's closer to pink than white, right? At that time, people were accusing people of being communists, and they were calling people pink. Communists were pink people, you know what I mean? So I think that's what he thought I was calling him, a communist. So he just went back into that cabin and turned that boat around, and we weren't the only ones on the boat. People were going for a Sunday afternoon. They didn't even complain. They let the boat turn around, took us back to the bank at Baton Rouge, and on the river, because he had made a phone call from that cabin. On the bank of that river was like 10 policemen with these 10-gallon hats and the 2 guns. So the one who probably was the sheriff or the leader, he stepped out of the line. He got us all off the boat. We don't know nothing about no going to jail. Anyhow, I didn't see that 80-year-old man take the test because I'd left and went back to New York. I said, to heck with it. I hope he voted one time before he died, because that's what he wanted, you know.
So did you go back to the South after that?
No, not to on any more projects. All the projects I did was up around me. We had plenty of projects in New York to work on, racial projects, because in New York, some of the stores like Saks Fifth Avenue and Bloomingdale's, you could buy things, but you couldn't try it on in the store, right? Then by that time, I knew quite a few white people teaching with them or something, and then they would tell me, Minnie, you give me the money, I'll go. I said, no. If you can't go in there and tell them, if you don't sell to Minnie and let her try, and I'm not buying in your store. I said, that's the kind of help I need. They don't care who come in with the money, you know. So anyhow, so he had all that, and then I would call up restaurants, make reservation for dinner. So on the phone, they give you a reservation. When you get there, they see that you're black. They're looking in that book. I don't see your name. I don't know who must take it. Somebody must make some mistake. And then if you stay there and you're arguing, they have to let you in. They give you a table near the kitchen or something, you know, or something. So New York had this problem that you had to deal with. So I just said, look, I'll stay in New York and work on those problems.
I lived in Calhoun County on the farm. My husband was a cotton farmer. And up there I was in everything from mental health to council on aging to what's now Lung Association. I mean, just all the things that were going on in the area. Since I've been back down here, I really have. I came back here in '72. We came back because my mother needed someone to take care of her. And we knew she'd be happier here than if we made her move up to the farm, so we came here. And then my son's death caused me to we stayed. It happened at the same time. I think League of Women Voters has been one of my favorites, though I haven't been very active in years. I just pay my dues and get to meetings when I can. But I do really, my heart's in what they do. The things that have mattered the most to me are the conservation groups I've worked with. I'm on the board of South Carolina Coastal Conservation League now, and that's a route that I've been drawn to for years. And I don't think there's no way we're going to do too much in that direction. No way.
We are here only for a short time, even though I've been here almost 83 years. I think of that poem that I said, that I don't know who wrote it, though thou have time but for a line, be that sublime, not failure, but the aimless crime. We are all here for a short time, and I think we ought to do as much good as we can, be as kind to people as we can be. Some people would call me naive, and sometimes people have taken advantage of my trying to be good and trying to be helpful, but I don't let that cause me to be bitter. I just believe that people want to do the right thing, in spite of the fact that they don't always do the right thing. And I'm not perfect either, so perhaps I'm naive. But I just expect, whether I'm here or not, I expect that things will get better.
I certainly would not go back to the old days, as they call the plantation days, with slavery, where you think, the part that's been glamorized, that's fine, but then there's the other part. And I feel that we are so fortunate to be beyond that, be beyond segregation, and I really do feel that race relations are so much better than they ever used to be, and that would be one of the things, it would seem to me now that I think about it, particularly that I would like to say that we've made some progress on, and I think we're all so much better off. And South Carolina as a state is so much better off. I never thought South Carolina really had visionary leadership. I never thought it, except for a few people. I thought Fritz Hollins was a person, a governor of great vision. And James Burns, he was the one who woke up to the fact that we needed to do something about education. And one of the ones, Governor Manning, before that. But by and large, there were not people of great vision. And I don't know that Georgetown County has had politically a visionary leadership, except for one man in particular, Morgan, who was the mayor there back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, somewhere along in there. And he seemed to have a vision of what the town ought to be and all. But I think one thing I would like to see would be more visionary leadership locally and in the state. Not everybody has that capacity. That would be political leadership.
I get a lot of criticism because I'm the kind of person who learn by asking questions, and some of my questions are too difficult for people to deal with, especially if you don't want to, so. But that's how I learn, and I have great respect for people, certainly great respect for the human race and anybody. I did a lot of traveling throughout the world, all over Europe, East and West and whatever, China, Japan, all over. So I learned that people are the same all over the world. Some of the problems we have in America, you can go to Poland and they have the same kind of problem. In Czechoslovakia, in France, we have the same problem. They have chosen people and non-chosen people.
The only thing is that life is continuous unfoldment. And there's one thing that I have really learned, that in life there is no death. I've watched people, I've been associated with people, I've seen how they overcome the challenges in their lives. And in each instant, when something happens and you think the end has come, it's like going up the steps. And you just move from phase to phase and stage to stage of continuous unfoldment. And it isn't as though you have control of it. There's a line from Shakespeare that there is a divinity that controls our destiny. Rough hew them though we may. We think we do, but we are moved in accordance with the divine plan. I firmly believe that.
I would love to be remembered as I stated before. Love everybody. Do the best I could. Did the best I could. And grateful, most grateful for such a wonderful, beautiful life. Fabulous family.